You wouldn't believe this. We've got another mechanical problem with the Ford Transit, aka the stealth camper. Fuck's sake, which is annoying. The engine management light is on the dash. So today we're going to try and diagnose the problem, make a decision on what to do, and see if we can resolve the problem and see if the solution lasts a long time. Or is it just a temporary fix? And have we got an even bigger underlying problem? Right, back on the van build, or should I say van repair today. This is a Ford Transit Mk8 2014. So it's got the 2.2 litre chain engine. It's not got the wet belt, so don't worry about that. Had this van since September. The first big mechanical, we had a fault on the gearbox and clutch, so it had a new clutch and a new gearbox, so that's all sweet now. And it was an ex-electricity board van, so it's had a good service history. Oh, and I have got the full service history for the van. Big shout out to Matthew Lord, who was the maintenance manager for this fleet of vehicles. That was lower than I expected it to be. He sent me the full service history for this van. The list is endless, and it had over £18,000 worth of servicing costs in its lifetime. So it is true what they say, these fleet vehicles are well looked after, and when it needed anything, it was done. But we've got a new fault. Last week, I was taking the van down to London. I had to go and rescue my brother from hospital. Essentially, my brother was on a flight on the way back from New York, watching the football. Lucky bastard, he'd had a great week, but karma decided to say, you know what, actually, you've had too much of a good week. We're now going to give you the worst food poisoning in the world. He was so ill, he was taken by ambulance to a hospital in London, and I ended up having to drive down to bring him back home in the van. On the way down, the van threw me a service now message. A little bit ominous, but I wasn't too worried about it. It went away. When I stopped and turned it back on, it had gone. And then on the way back, my brother was hanging out as well. It threw an engine management light. So if I start it up now, you can see I've got an engine management light on the dash. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to our new sponsors, Howden Modified Van Insurance. Whether you're insuring a finished camper van or you're insuring a van conversion in progress, they will insure your van from the time you buy it to the time that it's a finished camper van. Give Howdens a call and mention a Buck Life, and they will give you a great deal on your van insurance. I can personally recommend Howdens because both of our vans have always been insured with Howdens and currently are. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call. It didn't feel like it was running too badly, so I wasn't worried about it. I just thought, you know what, these modern machines, they're so temperamental. Modern diesel engines, they just do my head in a little bit. But let's find out what's going on. I've got a very cheap OBD port reader. Let's see what it's saying. Let's see what fault codes we're getting. So these OBD readers, I really need to get a better one of these, but these just slot into here, and then they will read any fault codes. And if you get a good one, you can delete the fault codes, and also a good one will do some additional trickery to the vehicle. If you can recommend any, that would be great. So we just hit this up, scan it, and it's saying we've got 2 fault codes, 1 fault, 1 pending. And the fault codes are 2463 and 2463P. If we Google those, hazard a guess what you might think it'll be. Ford Transit Mk8 fault code 2463 means diesel particulate filter, DPF, soot accumulation. Sake, story of my life. I've had this with the Crafter as well a little bit. It's fine now. I know how to manage it. But honestly, like modern diesel engines, I honestly believe there'll be like a Dieselgate for this in the future, where these vehicles weren't fit for purpose and we'll all get a load of, I mean, I hope, I dream we'll get a load of money back. We probably won't. Right, now this OBD reader does say you can clear the fault. In my experience, it's never worked. So if I click into it, and then I can go to erase, yes, and it will say an erase fail. But the good thing is it gives you a little bit of an idea as to what's going on with the engine. When I picked my brother up, we still had a couple of 100 miles. I had to drive up to Lincoln, and I was just outside of London, and then I had to drive from Lincoln all the way back here in the Peak District. So it probably wasn't a good thing that I had to do a couple of 100 miles whilst that engine management light was on. But when I got back, I took the vehicle down to the local garage. They had a look at it, they diagnosed it as a DPF fault, and they said that they tried to do a forced regen, but it was too full of soot to do a forced regen. And that's probably because I drove it for so long. If it had come on near here, I'll just stop driving it, taking it down there, forced regen, 40 quid later, that probably would have worked. But I didn't, I couldn't, it is what it is. So, what are my options? When this happened last week, I put a post up on my Instagram, @ABuckLifeOfficial, and I also put a community post up on YouTube, and I basically said, what are my next steps? This is where I'm at. Got a DPF fault, it won't force regen, what can I do? I can either do a DPF clean on the van, a DPF clean off the van, or a DPF delete. Overwhelmingly, everybody thought I should do a DPF delete. Both on Instagram and on YouTube, people were saying, 54% of you said to do a DPF delete. But problem with doing a DPF delete is I'm a bit of a stickler for the rules. And I also document everything on my channel. And I'm not really sure where that puts me. I would prefer to keep the vehicle as stock as possible. You know, part of this van build is a van conversion, but we're also jazzing up the van. You know, it was looking a little bit tired before, but we've done a full clean on the interior. We're going to do some work to the bodywork to make it look nice. At the moment, a DPF delete is out the question. That leaves us two options: a DPF clean on the van or a DPF clean off the van. Now, I phoned up my other local garage. They said they can take the DPF off, but they have to send it away for a clean. That puts the van out of action for a week or so, and is likely to cost between £500, £600, £700. So that leaves me one option. Hi Sky, always in here. Always in here. To do a DPF clean on the van. The local garage recommended a mobile company, which I've given them a call. They are called DPF Pro. This is totally unsponsored, by the way. I've no affiliation with them. I don't know if they're going to let me film. I phoned them up on Friday. I didn't book it in because I was just doing a little bit of research and trying to work out whether it's going to be the right move. And then I phoned them back up today, which is Monday. I've just got back from Goodwood Festival of Speed. The dustiest experience of my life, but it was an amazing day with my dad and my brother. They can fit me in this afternoon for a driveway DPF clean at a cost. It was £110 call-out fee, and then they do a diagnosis and see whether it's the right fit for them. But from the conversation I had, told him the fault codes, it's looking like that's going to be the correct move. So they will be here shortly, and hopefully they're going to explain to us what the fault is and what their solution is for it. And then only time will tell whether that fix lasts, or have we got an underlying other issue. I'll be back when the guys from DPF Pro turn up. And they are here, and this is Tom, who works for this company. He did not want to speak on camera, but he didn't mind me filming. What a legend. Seemed like a top bloke, and he seemed like he knew what he was doing. And also Sky was very interested in getting involved in the action. The first thing he did was plug it into his OBD reader to read the fault codes and make sure that it's something that he could try and help with. After starting it up, he confirmed that the fault codes were the same as what I had got, and that it was something that he could help with by performing a DPF clean.
After having a quick look underneath, Tom decided to get out his jack and jack the van up to give him better access to the DPF filter underneath the van. Sky was determined to be in the way today, and she just really wanted to be in the van and seemed to have found a new soulmate with Tom. Before he carried out the DPF clean, Tom wanted to carry out a little bit more diagnosis, so he plugged the diagnosis tool into where the sensor goes into the DPF. He confirmed that the sensor was working correctly, but it did have 158% soot level, which is well over where it should be, and it also had high pressure. It had 32 millibars of pressure instead of where it should be around 12 millibars of pressure. So this confirmed that doing a clean would be worthwhile and would hopefully get it working correctly. Sky also decided to inspect the DPF or have a kip, I don't know. Now it was time to pump in that slime. Tom's got a compressor in his van which he attaches to this container which bolts on to the DPF and then allows him to pump in a load of cleaning fluid. I don't know what the fluid is, I don't know what he uses, I forgot to ask him, but the idea is that it cleans out the DPF, removes a lot of the soot that gets built up that doesn't seem to want to get out with a regen. The idea here is that it's going to lower the pressure. And here you can see Tom pumping it into the van whilst the engine's on, whilst the ignition's on. And almost immediately we can see this foam coming out of the exhaust. This stuff stank, by the way. Usually with a solvent, the smellier it is, the better it seems to work. After revving the bollocks off the engine just to push that through, Tom explained to me.
So it's come down from 32 millibar to 9 millibar of pressure.
Yeah.
So now just reset fault codes, see if anything comes back on.
After clearing the fault codes, none of the DPF ones came up. There was a mystery fault code, glow plug control module, which did come up, but then did go once cleared and hasn't come back on since. It could have just been it throwing a warning, or I do need to get my garage to take a better look at that. Then while Tom was tidying up, he asked me to take it on a good 15-20 minute drive at regular driving speeds, 40-50 mile an hour.
Alright, shut that. Shut that. Right, okay, I'll see you in a minute. Oh, it stinks. Whatever it's doing in there, it's stinking.
The warning lights are off and they have stayed off on the test drive.
Right, I'll finish this test drive and then we'll head back to the yard.
The last thing Tom wanted to do was perform a smoke test on the engine to check if there were any leaks in any of the air hoses. This can cause problems with the DPF, so if you've got a leak, it might not be working and it might be the reason why we're getting some DPF problems. Also, I did explain to him about my driving style and distances, and he basically said that I wasn't really giving the van chance to regen at any point because I just do short trips on back roads. And sure enough, we have got a leak on one of the boost pipes. I'm not quite sure which pipe it is, but there is a leak. There's smoke coming out. You can see that there, that smoke is actually coming out and leaking from the system. And although it's only a small leak, that could be a contributing factor as to why we're having a problem with the DPF. Tom's given me 3 months warranty on the work that he's carried out, providing that I get that pipe changed, just to rule that out as the problem that could be causing the DPF fault. Then we thanked Tom and we said goodbye.
Right, we have a working van. The fault code has been removed. The DPF has been cleaned. No faults are coming on currently, but there is that small split in the air pipe which could be causing the fault. Additionally, he said that I don't drive it enough, which I don't. I don't do long enough journeys, which I don't. And I only keep it topped up to about halfway in fuel. I just stick, whatever I need in for when I'm using it. So apparently I should keep it well topped up over half a tank, quarter of a tank, otherwise it won't regen. So all of these things combined, plus the split in that air pipe, could be the reason why we've got this fault. So I'm going to get it in, get that air pipe squared away, and hopefully we've solved the problem of the DPF. That cost me a total of £360. It was £150 for the call out and it was £210 for the DPF clean. Tom was a top bloke, seemed very knowledgeable. This isn't sponsored, by the way. I am 350 quid lighter after that nice little visit. Saying that, he's diagnosed the problem, he's cleaned the DPF. Yeah, I feel like he's done a pretty thorough job. I'll put a link to that company because I think they've done a good job in the description, and I'll put a link to Howden Insurance if you're looking to insure your van or reinsure your van with Howden Insurance. You can use that code and get yourself a discount. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.